Joining me now is Congressman Subramanyam. Congressman, thank you so much for being here with us. So all of these oil tankers have been sanctioned. Venezuela is using the oil to fund narco-terrorists and other foreign adversaries. China's very, very upset about this. What's not to love?
I'm not excited about the prospect of getting us into another forever war. I think if you wanted to put pressure on Venezuela economically, there's a lot of better ways and other ways to do that. There doesn't seem to be a very well thought out strategy here. I think this is just, as Donald Trump's chief of staff said to Vanity Fair earlier this week, they're just trying to seize boats and blow up boats until they can make Maduro cry uncle, right? That was the strategy, is regime change in Venezuela. We've seen how that worked out for our country in the past. We've seen how forever wars have worked out in the past, and we frankly don't feel a need or desire to be involved in another forever war. There's lots of other ways to put pressure on Maduro besides this.
But I don't see a forever war. I mean, I see a strategy that is getting us oil, so it's making us money, is killing narco-terrorists and keeping drugs from entering the United States. So if by forever war you mean the president using his Article 2 powers to protect the homeland, isn't that something that is his right given to him by the Founding Fathers?
Well, I'd love to believe that this is just about drugs, but many of those drug ships were actually going, if they were drug ships, were going to Europe based on our intelligence. And the ones that weren't going to Europe, we're not quite sure if they had drugs on them. We were just bombing, right? And if you really want to get at the drug trade, why don't you seize the ships instead and question the people on board and find more drug ships and find more of the supply chain? That's the best way to counter narco-terrorism. But that's not quite what this administration is going after. I think what they're going after instead is regime change in Venezuela, and they've said so, right? Don't trust me, don't trust my word for it. Just talk to them about it. The chief of staff now, and even the president himself at times, has let it slip and said that that's what he wants. And so, again, there's better ways of going about this than the way they've done so.
So Venezuela hasn't only been exporting drugs to the United States. There are 1 million illegal, undocumented Venezuelans who entered the United States over the Biden administration, something close to that number. So what would your suggestion be to, A, protect us from the drugs, but also, B, what is the answer there? What is the Democrats' position when it comes to something like 1 million illegals from Venezuela?
Well, we do want safe and secure borders, right? And part of that is not just what's going on at the border with Mexico, but visa overstays as well. And so this is part of a comprehensive immigration reform that's badly needed. I represent an airport, and other places have visa overstays as an issue too. And so we need to address that comprehensively. I will say, though, that a lot of the people who left Venezuela were leaving for political reasons. And I guess we're giving them what they want now, which is they want to topple Maduro, right? And so I'm not quite sure how this is going to help the immigration issue with Venezuela. But certainly we're kind of getting into this mess in Venezuela, without really needing to. Again, this is part of, I think this is part of the MAGA idea of we split up the world into different spheres, and the southern hemisphere and North America and South America is our neighborhood, right? I think that's where this is coming from. But this is really unnecessary. I think it's the 21st century now. The entire globe is interconnected, and we really need to think things through when it comes to foreign policy, but this administration has not done that.
Are you saying that there are Democrats who would support deporting visa overstays?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's not anything new.
So you think that some of the deportations that the president has been engaged in are things that we could see the Democrats continue if they took power again?
It depends on the topic you're talking about, the person you're talking about, right? So remember, this administration talked about how they wanted to go and go after the worst of the worst and the criminals, right? But right now they're just kind of going to work sites, going through churches, in my district going to courthouses and trying to round people up. And so that's not really the best way to go about comprehensive immigration reform like we've been pushing for many decades now. This immigration system is about 30 or 40 years outdated at this point and needs to be updated.
But you're saying in a future Democratic administration, we could expect to see deportations of criminals?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've seen it in past Democratic administrations.
Great. Thank you so much. It was so great to have you, Congressman.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.